Shut up and sit down.
Hello and welcome to the Nerds at Large Spoilercast for Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 5. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Allman.
Hi, I'm Jeff Mayo.
And we are joined only by one guest today, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
I am Holden DePardo. I am a co-host at Respawn Aim Fire with my friend Chad Innes, which is at Chad Innes Mike on Twitter and at Respawn Aim Fire on Twitter as well. I'm at Holden DePardo on Twitter, but I don't do anything special. Follow those two. They're far more interesting on Twitter than I am.
And you just got hired a week ago, right? So
yeah, exactly. I'm so new to it.
Be on here alone. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a tall order that Chad just put on you. Yeah.
But we retroactively added me to all the episodes, so like it's clean.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay,
it's gonna work.
Technology is just crazy, man.
Yeah, we have some advanced AI algorithms on our side.
And you use them to insert yourself into old podcasts.
Yep,
Good job.
Exactly. That's where the money is, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Yeah. We were just talking before this episode. I am not emotionally prepared to do this podcast yet, but we are going to press on anyway. Obviously, full spoilers, but boy, I don't know what I think about this episode yet because I just feel like this episode was just too much. Where once you got into the middle of it, like I kind of stopped thinking about the setup to get here, and I was just glued to moving from one scene to one scene, and it was just a train wreck that just kept going. It was like the train wrecked, and then the fire killed like hundreds of people after it hit the station. It was like it just kept going.
Far more than 100 Darby.
Literally what do you guys think about it? You might have more put together thoughts than I do.
Go ahead, Holden.
Yeah, so I actually really agree with what you're saying in terms of the not caring about the setup when you're watching it, because it really was super intense throughout the whole thing, even though it was very one-sided. There was really no conflict, really. It was very much just Dany winning the whole thing. But I do feel like this would have landed a lot better had there been better payoff. I think they were trying to play off this mad Dany aspect, which works because of her ancestry, but it felt a little quick, like her looking all tired and everything. But it was really satisfying watching it nonetheless, because it just was very well done. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of mixed. Like it's good, but it could have been set up better, I guess.
Yeah, once Dany goes crazy, all that stuff was really cool to watch, and it was beautifully shot and all that stuff, but Dany going crazy, I am not crazy for. Yeah. At least how crazy she went. Mm-hmm. If she just went straight for Cersei and that was it, and that was the extent of her going crazy, I would have been like, that's perfect, that is in character.
Well,
but
keep going.
But the fact that she literally just killed everyone, it's kind of like, that's kind of a bridge too far, at least.
Well, it's weird for me. I think the concept of this happening in this episode, even her completely decimating King's Landing, I don't think it's a far-fetched idea in the long run, but I agree. They just did not give themselves enough time to make it feel right.
See, that's the thing. Yes. If there was more stuff in, to lead up to it, yes, but if she just went after Cersei and destroyed the main castle, and then some people died in the kind of fire/built castle falling around it. Okay, fine.
Well, I would argue that wouldn't even be crazy. They were trying to let you know that Dany could stop right here. They made it very obvious that like the battle is over. If Dany could stop right here and there's no repercussions. Anything she does now is because she wants to do this. That's what they were trying. I'm not saying like they were right or wrong for doing that, but that is what they were trying to communicate: is the battle is over. This is just Dany's rage now.
I think it works really well. I mean, if you just look at the episode itself, the few things that she was saying about, I only have fear, I think that's right. I mean, she kind of does only have fear. She's really always had just the dragons. And although a lot of the slaves kind of, came to her because they were freed by her, a lot of her draw in Simply Westeros is just the fear. So it makes sense that she would kind of start to feel isolated and away from everyone and start to go crazy. But they only had 6 episodes to work with. So, like, I totally agree. Like, that that's kind of like the big problem with the episode. I also feel that
Oh,
you there?
at this point,
you're frozen.
like I think those things like Varys and all that kind of stuff felt kind of rushed in the beginning as well, because that wasn't quite as well set up. Like, it's kind of the same problem throughout. Can we talk about that Varys thing for a second?
Sure.
Yeah, and just to be clear for listeners, we are probably going to be jumping around. I don't think we're going to have a structure to this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I didn't quite understand why he was like. Was it because of the Aegon and Targaryen thing? It's like, how did she find out about that? I was kind of confused.
Oh, because Tyrion told.
He just straight up told her.
Daenerys.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much didn't.
Why would he tell her? That's why I was kind of confused.
It was kind of just to let her know what's kind of going on thing, I guess. Or it could have been, I can't remember how exactly it was set up. She mentioned there was a traitor, so Tyrion was thinking, okay, she must know about Varys. And then she's like, oh, John's like, no, talk about Varys. Or that's the real traitor.
I think it was at that time, Tyrion's been in denial for multiple episodes for a while, and I think he still believed in Daenerys at that moment. I mean, otherwise he would have kept Varys' secret. I mean, Tyrion is not averse to lying, but I think at that moment Tyrion still did believe in Dany, and then it wasn't until
he doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
No. The first thing I said to Jeff after this is a crazy sentence that is absolutely true. There is not a single soul out there that can make a case that it would be worse off for the people of Westeros if Cersei had won. Mm-hmm. Like, if Cersei was sitting on the Iron Throne, it would be better for everyone, which is a kind of a crazy thought.
Consider the Daenerys situation.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last quick thing about the Varys thing, then we can move on from that. Why didn't she burn Sansa? Why didn't she burn anyone else who was talking about that? That's, I don't know. Just Varys only felt a little strange to me.
Probably partly because Varys was the only one there at the time,
and she didn't know that Sansa knew, like, until this, until she was away from Sansa.
No, but she says Jon told Sansa, Sansa told Tyrion, Tyrion told Varys.
Yeah, she was able to clue that.
She made that together. Connection. Yeah,
but I mean, like, she wasn't in burning distance of Sansa.
That's what I was saying. It could be if they get together, Daenerys might have a problem. Or she might not do it. I don't know. She's crazy. She's all crazy now, willing to kill it. I mean, anyone.
I feel like Dany's gonna have zero friends at this point.
Yeah.
I think this might be a sad, like, Dany goes off and, like, Dany's not gonna have a kingdom after this. I think. Like,
I mean, she killed all the subjects.
I mean, I guess there are people outside of King's Landing, but I think there's a 0% chance any of them follow her at this point. But yeah.
No,
I mean. I got why Varys was. I don't know, like that kind of made sense to me, and that, like, I liked Dany's line there, like, because I just assumed she was going to be crazy going into this, and very, very, very much was that true. But how she said Jon, and she was like, "No, Jon told this, Jon told that, so Jon betrayed me." It was like she has a very narrow look on this whole thing.
Yeah, I guess it just felt weird. It was only targeted at him when it was kind of a chain of events. He just kind of happened to be at the end of it. But he also was the only one plotting against her, I guess. But
yeah,
anyway.
That's what I took it almost that he was being burned because he was the one acting on it. And she pretty much straight up said to Tyrion, she's like, then the next time you fail me will be the last time.
Yeah.
I think in the chain, Varys is the only one that doesn't have anything, she doesn't care about him necessarily as a person as much as the other ones are.
And he was the only one, like, actively acting on it. Everyone else just passed it on.
I mean, there are a bunch of reasons why just him.
Yeah.
Or you could infer.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I think she's clearly been wanting to burn Varys up for a while now. She's been wanting to burn a lot of people up for a while now, apparently.
She hates eunuchs.
With her unsullied army?
Yes! She thinks less of them.
Wow, that's been the twist this whole time. Well, yeah, so I guess I'm just trying to think about everything that happened pre-battle. Varys was the biggest thing, and Varys, like, straight up goes up to Jon and says, like, tells him. And now in hindsight, I'm sure Jon's like, if I had taken him up on this, maybe none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Which Jon's going to have a lot to live with there, because I mean, if John pulled his Northman army out of this, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Although it does kind of seem like she just almost single-handedly did this with her dragon. The armies basically had nothing.
Yeah,
to do
I'm
with
gonna
it.
be a little stickler and say I have a little problem with that. It made it feel like the Night King and everything had no consequence. Even more so.
I was like, where was all this? You had 3 of these things. Why was this not like
Yeah,
every battle?
I mean, and then we all talked about the Night King being anticlimactic and all stuff, but we were also like, well, they depleted the army greatly. Apparently, that didn't matter. At
Yeah,
all whatsoever.
exactly. So last episode, they ends with just the 12 Unsullied in front of King's Landing, and then all of a sudden she gets like all 8,000 back again. It felt like it was. Yeah, it didn't work at all.
She just went to Unsullied RS.
There were definitely the whole thing is BS. The North Army should be more depleted than that anyway, but there was definitely too many of her Unsullied and Dothraki. It should have been
Dothraki should be all gone at this point.
Yeah, it should be majority Northmen and other people. It should.
Yeah, someone on Reddit pointed that out. That in the last episode's recap, they said all the Dothraki are gone, but in the same episode they say half the Dothraki are gone. So it's very unclear what was happening with that. So I guess they're back.
Dothraki are us.
Yeah.
It's whatever sounds cooler, whatever's the cooler line of dialogue.
Yeah.
Half the Dothraki are gone. That doesn't sound cool enough. Say all.
Say all.
Yeah. But then battles won't look as cool.
Yeah.
And just throw them in anyway.
Just throw them in anyway. Yeah. Didn't we charge all of them forward? Yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah.
This is probably going to be another one of those episodes, and it's part of just the setup to it, the actual episode itself and just putting everything else out of your brain was phenomenal, but the logic building it up doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But just to stick on some positive things, I think this is without a doubt probably the most impressive cinematography we've seen on the show. I
Absolutely.
mean, for just sustained for that long, and how actually at first when they were doing the first battle and she was burning some stuff, I was like, the CG doesn't look as good as it normally does. It's like, this is kind of
some CG I thought looked off was when Euron and them were on the ships at the beginning before the battle. It's kind of like, oh, you're obviously in front of a green screen.
But then once they got to more of the practical stuff, when Dany is destroying the city and you're seeing buildings fall and people running and I don't know, just the way that it was all choreographed was really, really impressive.
The gore effects, honestly, were just hard to watch. I mean, a lot of it is just because of what was happening in the context, but there's just scenes of people just dead in the streets and all that. It was really graphic, and the effects were impressive despite being hard to look at.
Yeah. It's weird to think that, we kept on hearing so much about, the battle against the Night King and everything being the longest battle and all that kind of stuff. It's they're hyping that up. But visually and all battle stuff, this was more impressive and more fun to watch.
Significantly so. Yeah.
Plus, we could see it.
Yeah, that's a big plus. That's nice.
Yeah, daylight. No, it's one of those things. It added on to it. I don't want to go watch this again because it's so unsettling, and that's absolutely what it was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
and we've seen glimpses of that before in Game of Thrones, but for it to be this sustained and for it to just, I mean, you really did feel like anything could happen, kind of for the first time in a long time in Game of Thrones, and even despite Jon's alive, Davos is alive, Arya's alive, all these, obviously there were very big deaths, very, very, very big deaths.
Harry Strickland's dead! No! I read that's who is this normal-ass name motherfucker? That's it's the Golden Compass guy.
He's actually a very important book character, but he's just...
Yeah.
He's a no-name
I know you
person
mentioned that before, oh yeah.
But he's no one in this. But even despite, even though, a lot of our name characters are alive, this versus the other battles, I don't care.
I mean,
you cannot come out of this and be like, where was the cost? Where were the stakes? It's no, this was...
The only one you can maybe she got off really easy is, Arya, the fact that she happened to be the only one alive and
conveniently with a horse coming by to help her get out too. What was that about?
Yeah. Again, beautiful. It was shot beautifully.
Beautifully, yeah.
Beautiful cinematography, yeah.
I want to. Speaking of praise, I want to call attention to that bell scene where everyone in the city is yelling, "Ring the bell, ring the bell," and Cersei's just standing there, just looking out. She's not going to do anything, that. Someone finally rings the bell, and there's just this like satisfaction, like, oh, it's over, the relief, and I think that really adds to the devastation. Is just the thought that it was going to end, and I just go ahead.
I was going to say that it could have ended. Like it was in Danny's hands.
Yeah, I thought that was probably one of the highlight moments of the whole episode. I think.
I agree, and I want to see if you guys thought the same thing. Whenever they dropped their swords and they rang the bell, I thought it was beautiful, but I did stop to think. I was like, really? Like we did this whole thing with like I started to think like we did this whole thing, this like whole back and forth dilemma of like, is she gonna burn the city, is she not? And it was like, oh, all she had to do was like burn some scorpions at the end. They dropped their swords, and I thought it was gonna end that way. And I was like, now Danny's gonna be talked down, and it's gonna be cool. I was like, really? Are we doing this? And then flash forward to 40 minutes later, I'm like, no, absolutely,
everything's
not.
Burning.
Like, did you guys like just assume that this is where we were gonna end up at that point?
I didn't assume it was going to go that smoothly at that point. It's like, okay, something's going to happen, whether Cersei does something to retaliate, or like I kept saying, like I was thinking, I thought what Danny, or I was going to be okay what Danny was going to do and just attack Cersei directly.
I was actually sorry.
Go you go ahead.
I was actually pretty convinced that Cersei was going to make it out. That Jaime was going to make it there in time. That was one thing I was pretty convinced of. I really thought that when the bell had rung, Danny was just going to, not start destroying the city again, and she would just walk up and just Cersei would be gone, and Jaime would be gone, and they'd just be gone. I kind of thought that's where it would go, in that kind of middle portion of it. So that kind of honestly really surprised me. I thought the moment of Jaime, like Cersei dying, was very good, even though I wasn't expecting that. But midway through, I did not expect it to turn out the way that it did. That was super unexpected for me.
I kind of expected the moment that Jaime got stabbed multiple times, like, okay, he's going to die. I figured, okay, Cersei's also going to die in some way, whether it be with Jaime like they did die, or she somehow runs into Arya, or just something.
Yeah. It wasn't going to be like, Jaime's not going to bleed out here, and she runs off.
Though I will say, I'm kind of just glad that Arya didn't get the kill, because like she killed the Night King and Cersei. Come on.
Which I did kind of think, like, I thought whenever the Hound said, you think you've been waiting for revenge, I've been doing it my whole life, you don't want to be like me, run. I wanted her to say, and you don't have to do this either. I wanted her to say, like, this is all futile and dumb, go live your life, because the same exact advice could be thrown straight back at him.
Yeah, like if he didn't go up there, his brother of the mountain still would have died.
Yeah, no, it was completely futile, and I mean, I'm not saying this in a bad way. I think this is kind of a, like, honestly, a pretty like good backdrop for the Clegane Bowl, because by the time we got to it, it felt futile and silly, but like not in a bad storytelling way, in a like, this is pointless. Like this whole we've been hyping this up, this like Clegane versus, or the Mountain versus the Hound, and in reality, it's like, no, this is stupid. Like, what is gained from this?
Nothing.
Like, even if one of them killed the other one and walked away, what was gained? Nothing was gained, and in fact, they both died. And I'm glad that when we got to Clegane Bowl, it actually had a very somber feel to it. To me, it did not feel hype. It felt like this shouldn't be. I
like how they died by falling into fire.
Yeah, like the Hound challenges his fears.
So he faced his fear of fire. In his death.
But then you just go down to, and he's just screaming in agonizing pain.
The Mountain did look freaky, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was like, stab the brain!
Yeah.
And he did. I was like, oh, wait. That didn't work.
I had the same exact thought.
My immediate thought when he stabbed him through the chest, I was like, you should have gone for the head.
I feel like he went for the head enough times. Like, he stabbed his chest, his like arm, like all over the place, his head multiple times. That maybe that would have done it.
Yeah.
Except the
I
one
also
time.
immediately go to, like, is this the same way it's going to work in the book? Is the Mountain also, like, almost basically unkillable in the book? I don't know.
Yeah. I imagine what you can probably expect is they both die somehow.
Yeah. I will say, this is the first episode in a long time where I really do feel like I just watched the book spoiler.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like there's no way the show deviated this much.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this has to happen.
Yeah, this general thing, yeah.
Yeah, the fact
And
that
the general fate of these characters up to this point, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going back to the whole, the setup wasn't quite there. Because I think George R. R. Martin gave them this plot point and said, Daenerys is going to go mad. She's going to relive her ancestry in that way. And they really should have been teasing that for the past few seasons, where she's had so many people around her betray her in some way that she has reason to be suspicious. And they should have been teasing that throughout, and it just kind of happened. So, like, yeah, I think that, like, this was a spoiler for the books, but they just didn't, like, the D&D did not play it out necessarily throughout the past few seasons.
Yeah, it was almost like you can almost tell when they started gearing towards that plot point, because like we did get hints for this, but they've all been recent, and it all kind of seemed like,
and they were all kind of subtle hints, and they I mean, there's probably a couple instances I'm forgetting, but I never felt like it escalated, and so it kind of went from kind of 0 to 10 to 100 with this. I mean, I get it, so why Daenerys would be particularly mad with this, but I feel like that was overkill, like, and not completely.
Yeah, and, I mean,
for her,
and it's all about like feelings to me, because even if you stop and think what Dany's gone through, and you just like add it up like a math equation, it's like, yeah, I could see how that could equal someone is bitter and insane and crazy. But when you're watching the show, you just don't feel like it's earned, even if the events make sense. When just together, it just didn't. And it's another one of those things that I think if this season had been 10 episodes, or we had another season after this or something, the same exact episode could be placed into a longer season finale, and I think it could have worked. It could have worked very well.
I have bad news. I don't know. I was on Reddit all day. I was telling you guys that before we recorded, I think. And there's a story that said that the creators of the show were offered by HBO a blank check, basically 10 episodes, whatever you want, and they said no. 6 is enough. We only need 13 more episodes in total for the last 2 seasons. So they were offered the ability to write this out as much as they wanted to, and they chose not to, which kind of like upsets me. That's
I mean, they want it out. I get it, but it 100% hurt the product.
Absolutely,
There's no denying that at this point, and that's kind of been a problem. Like, I mean, Benioff and Weiss are insanely talented, and what they created with Game of Thrones is amazing. It has been amazing for season after season, but they should have just passed it on to someone else if they were tired of it. And it's Game of Thrones. You could have gotten anyone you wanted to take this over. I mean, you could have gotten the best of the best. And I definitely feel the product was definitely weak, and it bums me out because this episode was crazy, and everything that happened in here does not, like, you know, in theory for Game of Thrones, this feels right.
Yeah.
I just wish I felt better getting here.
It's pretty much, yes, once Dany went crazy, that was all beautiful and stuff, and in a certain context, would have 100% loved it, and it would have been perfect. But setup could have been how we got here could have been a whole lot better.
Yeah.
It's a really weird criticism for an episode. Like, it was great, except for everything around the episode.
That's Game of Thrones at this point.
That's the unfortunate thing. And then, but the problem is that stuff around keeps on adding up. Where we're like, man, I have major problems with technically half this show seasons.
Well, Game of Thrones is so conflicting. It would be easier if it was just all good or all bad. But like, there's some things I love, and there'll be something I hate that sets up something I love, and it's just the weird back and forth. But to talk a little bit more of what I like, something that I just noted that, I mean, it was kind of an obvious thing, but I really like that as soon as the twist happens in this episode, you don't see Dany again. Like, Dany's expression, her emotions, and everything are completely hidden to you, and you basically see this the way that the people on the ground are seeing it, as just complete and total destruction. It's like a demon has descended on them, and I like that we don't even see Dany crying or anything. We don't know what she's feeling, because at this point we're kind of so separated from Dany. Like, we grew up with we saw Dany grow up, we saw all this stuff. It's like, that's gone. That character we know is gone, and then all she is
we solved Drogon.
It doesn't matter what she is or what she's feeling at this point. Because even if they had tried to make me sympathize with her halfway through this episode, I would have been like, "Fuck that."
Yeah,
I'm not.
I mean, there's no
sympathizing
justification for what she did.
Well, I'm just dying to see what Jon Snow's going to say to her, because he was pushing people back, saying, "Don't continue fighting. It's over." I'm really curious what's going to happen there now because of all this.
So I'm just gonna bring this up now because it's kind of related and just why it's on my mind.
Yeah.
When the whole Dany going crazy or whatever, and then the Unsullied and the Northerners attack the Lannister army or whatever. Did anyone think there was going to be a chance that with the way Grey Worm was looking at Jon that he was about to kill him?
Yes, I did have the same thought. I did.
It was like, are you about to stab Jon right now?
I mean, that'd been an interesting way for Jon to go too.
Yeah, I thought Grey Worm was just going to end up dying during this thing when he was going berserk and kind of like, you're going to die. Nope, you live. Man, I was so wrong. I thought Grey Worm would be dead by now.
But they also thought Jon might kill Grey Worm or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, at this point, I think it's good. I'm very, very curious to see Dany and just the troops on the ground, because Jon might still end up killing Grey Worm, or Grey Worm might still end up killing Jon, because we still have another episode of this.
I knew Jon was going to survive, especially after the whole Dany going berserk. It's like, okay, we are going to have the conflict of Jon's going to have, the inner conflict at least of, should I take my quote-unquote rightful place on the throne?
I don't even know if it's inner conflict, or even if he doesn't do that, Dany has to die. There is no if, and, or buts about it.
So I can't remember. It might have been Holden bringing it up. Or at least he said he saw this, or someone. The whole thing about when Dany went and saw the future or whatever of the
house. Oh yeah, it was the same shot.
Yeah, the ashes.
When it was snowing, is like that. It might have been ash instead, especially the Night King was like, yep.
Well, it was a dilemma, that was in season 2. It was a dilemma all these years. Was it snow or was it ash? We knew it was going to be ash ever since the Night King went down. We just didn't know, is it going to be ash, but good ash? Is it going to be not good ash, but was it going to be she just targeted the throne room, took Iron Throne down, and that's Cersei dying? Or is it going to be this?
Yeah.
Where it's ashes because all of King's Landing was gone. And the dragon flying over King's Landing, that was a shot that we saw in the House Undying in season 2. It was the same exact shot. We saw a shadow of a dragon flying over King's Landing back in season 2 when she saw into the future. And I as soon as she started flying, it was that same exact shot. And I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
Okay, yeah.
So both of those things were, now we know, were showing Dany going bad.
Yeah, and it goes into what you were saying of, hey, this is at least one thing you can say, it's going to happen in the books.
There's a lot of things that happen in the show that I'm pretty confident are not going to happen in the books,
or at least not the exact same way,
or happen dramatically differently. I don't think this is going to be that dramatically different. I think it's going to be pretty similar. Well, I think it'll feel better, arriving here, and the context around it will feel better. And I'm wondering, does this mean, I kind of got the feeling by the fact that we didn't see Dany this whole time, I kind of get the feeling that this will not be a POV, a point of view chapter for Dany. I kind of feel like we might see this from Jon's perspective, or someone else,
Arya's house,
or Arya, or someone else. Yeah,
it'll also probably just happen from multiple perspectives. They might just be a huge battle. It's over a few hundred pages, maybe. But
I could see it being a bunch of perspectives, but none of them are Dany, and so you're sitting here what is she thinking? What's going on in her head? Because I love that dilemma so much, not knowing.
So they just do one chapter is Dany, or however they do the point of view thing, and then it's just ... move on to the next chapter.
Fire.
Your cars.
Yeah, just
cars, and it flips over.
That's all.
I guess one thing we haven't really talked about that did happen beforehand. What did y'all think of Tyrion letting Jaime out? What did you think in the moment, and then what did you think going on afterwards?
I liked it. I mean, it makes sense because it's just always kind of been a thing of, hey, Tyrion and Jaime care about each other, and Tyrion kind of loves / hates Cersei kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was more so for Jaime, obviously, but that he wanted him to be happy and live and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was sweet.
It was, but kind of goes back to the whole unearned thing, I think, because Jaime's character is confusing to me this season. The whole Brienne and suddenly switching to I need to go back to Cersei, even though he just looked smitten with Brienne in the last episode. So like when he's there with Tyrion, it just the whole time thinking, yeah, but like he just suddenly decided to start going to Cersei. And I get they had this like magnetic bond or they're very close, but I don't know, it felt like it was there and happening because of a very sudden character transition. So like great moment, unearned, just like the whole episode.
I was about to say not to beat a dead horse, but this is yet another thing that I could see the plot points of. He ends up with Brienne and seems happy, and then he ends up going back to Cersei. I could see both of those things happening and feeling right.
Yep.
If we had like that 4 or 5 episodes of that happened over.
Yeah.
But the fact that it happened and then like 2 scenes later he left, it makes like it's not bad writing in the plot points. It's just bad writing in the
it's not the intention, it's the execution.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a bummer. Yeah, that could have, because also like I don't even know if I'm supposed to be left feeling this way. I think Jaime is supposed to feel more tragic than I feel like he is now, because I definitely hit a point in this episode where I'm like, I was just a few episodes ago fighting for you, Jaime, saying that I was so happy for you to be in a better situation. Now I'm just like, your redemption arc is kind of fucked. It's like you are just a lost cause at this point.
I think would have been a really fitting ending for him is if he had not gone to Cersei, he had stayed, he'd been with Brienne. We don't see him this whole episode, and then next week he hears the news that his sister died, and he has to dismiss himself, and he kind of just has a moment where he has to collect himself because that's his lifelong partner who's gone, and he has to live that for his whole life. That magnetic bond is still there, but the other side is not present. So like it's always going to battle with him, but he has to live on with it forever. That would have been more fitting, I think, and more tragic than him suddenly changing his mind and moving over. But again, to Darby's point, the plot points make sense, just the pacing of it doesn't. So that might have been exactly how George R. R. Martin intended it, but like because of the pacing of it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Which is again a bummer.
I know, yeah.
It's just a bummer. It should be better than this, you know, like.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I should feel more the fact that Jaime and Cersei Lannister are fucking dead.
Yeah. Well, and they did the Game of Thrones thing where they killed the big bad, but you don't feel good, and like that's kind of the signature Game of Thrones thing, which is so good. But yeah, it was.
Does it not feel good because it was Jaime and Cersei, or because Cersei died? I think it might be just because it was Jaime and Cersei that were there together. If Cersei just died, I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd feel as conflicted.
No. I'm kind of talking about more overarching, like we beat Cersei, but someone worse than her just won.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Like Dany is worse than Cersei.
Oh, at this point, yeah. At this point, absolutely.
And that's where I'm saying it's like bittersweet. It's like, yeah, you've been talking about how you want Cersei dead this whole time. Well, she's dead. So is everyone else in King's Landing. Yeah, but I mean, like again, even with Jaime, I think that's a poetic end. It was like it's not what you want. But that's the Game of Thrones thing, is like what you want is not what's always going to happen, and it does make sense for her to go back to for him to go back to her. But yeah, it did feel just like boom, 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 boom. We're going. Yeah. But all that aside, again, taking out the context, looking at them, their acting in that scene was incredible. I mean, seeing Lena Headey go from stoic Cersei, like badass or whatever, and just seeing her break down and say like, I don't want to die, I want our kid to survive. That was amazing. Yeah, she's an incredible actress, and we haven't really seen. I guess the Walk of Atonement we saw her break down some, but not like this. Yeah, never like this, never that much.
So it's weird. We haven't seen much of her this season.
Yeah,
but she had a good ending. She did have a good ending.
Yeah, and he's also a great actor. There's definitely other things. I mean, do y'all have more to say on Clegane Bowl? I kind of touched on it, but like we didn't. I don't know if we talked in depth about it.
I mean, again, overall, I like that. Yeah, it was just kind of like you said, it's pointless, but it was always kind of pointless from the Hound's point of view at a certain point. So I think that was fitting, and I kind of liked how the Mountain was always obeyed Cersei and always did it, but seeing his brother kind of like no, fuck this. I'm taking this guy down.
Which is also like, I mean, this is, again, I think about in book implications. I was like, so does that mean the mountain does have some sort of agency? Like, because we don't know at this point. He's just this weird, freakish monster. You know?
And the fight was brutal. And
man, when the hound had his eyes gouged out, when he's like staring through like a tiny slit in his eye, and there's just like blood pouring down his face. I'm like, good God.
At that point, I'm just surprised that the hound didn't just give up. At that point, it'd be like, you're done. It's over.
Yeah, but it's the hound, so he's like, I got nothing to lose at this point.
And the hound's like,
if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me.
I was like, I don't want to live like this. I'm just gonna go. Do you think like he tackled him off and then looked down and saw the fire and he was like, oh damn, I wouldn't have done it if I knew this.
See, the mountain actually helped him because his eyes. He had trouble seeing it. He felt the heat when he was falling down. I was like, wait a minute. No.
Oh no. It's a simultaneously fitting and also just completely futile and tragic end for the hound. Like, he basically almost came back from the death he should have died, and he came back and kind of squandered his life in a stupid fit of vengeance for revenge. That means nothing. Yeah. It means nothing. He could have gone and lived a good life with people who like him now. Like, he could have stayed in Winterfell, and people love him now. Like, I mean, like, he has friends there that want to be with him. And
Sansa and Arya would be like, yeah, you can stay here.
Yeah, he could have lived a great life, and like he was given a second chance to go and squander it, and I do think that is kind of impactful, even if it's really sad.
It was also just nice to see him save Arya like that, or at least like tell Arya, "Don't risk your life." It was kind of nice to see him put himself in front of Arya. I like that moment a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he was right. He was like, and yeah, I was glad to see they both have very similar, just futile vengeance, but I'm glad that one of them made it out.
Yeah. Oh. Although Arya conveniently, not in that specific moment, but when she's out in
just
King's
throughout
Landing,
the whole thing,
very convenient.
When, it is also kind of me part of like, okay, so what's her point? What's the point? What is she gonna do now? What is her kind of part in this last episode's in game?
Yeah,
is it to kind of explain to someone how freaking crazy Daenerys is? Because we got other people for that.
Wear Grey Worm's face and kill Dany. I'm not even that joking that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned before the episode, the whole Faceless Men or whatever thing hasn't come into play in forever.
Yeah, it was Walder Frey was the last time, and
yeah,
that wasn't even really a big plot thing. It was more of a Red Wedding binge, but you know,
yeah, and just kind
it was just kind of like an opening to an episode, and then cut away, move on. It was kind of just quick and sudden.
I've always wondered this, and it's one of those things where it's like, it's probably happened in one scene. I completely forgot. Does he even know what Arya looked like?
Who?
Walder Frey? Is that a dumb question?
No, you should.
I don't know.
Okay.
No so what are we getting at with that?
I don't know. I was like, well, I guess wear the face of someone he trusts. Like, does he even need to wear the face? That even important? But I guess wear the face of someone he trusted, quote unquote.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying now?
To get to Walder Frey, you mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like, I think for Dany, she'll have to, like, Dany's going to be completely on guard 100%. Everyone's out to try to kill me now. And I do think Grey Worm could be. I mean, I see the scene going, like, we don't know it's Arya at the time. And then she kills him. And I'm not even saying this.
I mean, you're right. That could be where it is because Arya saw how it's like, hey, she needs to die.
Yes.
She crazy.
And honestly, Grey Worm probably needs to die at this point.
Well, Grey Worm is... I'm assuming Grey Worm is alive. Jon Snow's alive. Grey Worm's not going to let Jon Snow near Daenerys. Why would he? He saw that he was pushing people away and specifically disobeying Daenerys in the middle of battle.
Yeah, so it could even be a thing to drive a whole wedge even more between Daenerys and Jon, to stir up Daenerys even more. Grey Worm's like, yo, he tried to stop us from attacking or call the men back.
Yeah.
That's traitorous. It's treason. It's treason.
Oh, no, yeah.
I can also envision the end to this where Dany kind of comes back to lucidity over what she just did. And like even maybe Jon has to talk to her and just be like, you might realize you might feel bad for what you did, but what you did was inexcusable. It's like it kind of doesn't matter how much remorse you feel. we're past that at this point. And I can see like maybe John has to kill her, and maybe she just lets him because maybe she just like comes down and realizes that what she did was terrible, and that could be another tragic end. Because I am definitely at the point where it doesn't matter what Danny says at this point; she needs to die.
I'm just now it's kind of running from where like kind of stuff we've been talking about. Like, what's the catalyst for someone to at least attempt to kill her? Will it be like Arya using like Grey Worm's face or something like that, try to get close? Will it be John maybe just doing it?
Well, what
or
color?
Will it be...
Sorry, what color are her eyes? Danny's eyes.
They were flipping between her and Cersei, and I swear they were both green, like last episode. So,
Okay.
So they did the whole Arya Stark, like you'll kill. I forgot the whole thing. It was like blue eyes, green eyes, or whatever. So it could be Arya, but
I'm pretty sure Daenerys. Yes, I think they were
flipping between the two.
No. I think I actually noticed for some reason that hers were green. Daenerys's were green.
In the books, they're violet, but in the show,
Okay.
I think they're green. They showed both of them, and I'm pretty sure they were green.
Okay.
Yeah.
Google image search will determine this for us.
Yeah. But it could be here. It's like, what's the catalyst for someone trying to kill Daenerys, or what leads it to? Can it be like, especially now that Daenerys is potentially just unhinged? She just continues to be unhinged.
And
Will she go after Sansa?
I could see it
Because she technically, in her mind, the way she explained it, Sansa plotted against her in a way, or tried to do something to mess with her by the whole thing of, hey, if she kind of said Sansa knew if she told you, you would tell Varys, and yeah.
Well, and Dany's almost at the point now where if she slows down, she's dead because she has no what army is going to follow her now?
Grey Worm.
That's not enough?
I know. I'm just saying that army, the Unsullied, are the only are in the
Grey Worm,
Dothraki.
a few Unsullied. I can't imagine that the Northmen will follow them now, and the rest of the realm is going to hear that she just demolished King's Landing. I would at least hope that no one would, that she would have no, I almost see this just being a really tragic, we have to hunt her down, and she should know that she's beaten, but she keeps fighting,
She has the fear because she just decimated King's Landing. She has that fear. Everyone else will succumb to her because she just, this is like finding out that someone just decimated most of the cities New York City or Los Angeles or something like that, or Chicago, just decimated it and destroyed it. It would be a huge moment that has impact on people. They're going to just bow because they don't want the same thing to happen to them.
Yeah, especially since the one weapon that, as far as they know, could take dragon down, the scorpions, are all gone.
Yeah. God, I hope she dies. Which is a sad thing to be saying right now.
Yeah.
It's
I like
a big
Daenerys
turn.
so much.
Yeah.
But God, she needs to die. And because I just don't know how else this ends if she doesn't die.
Tragically.
She's just a tyrant.
Or does she just go back to Marine? And even then, I don't know.
I mean, at this point, Daenerys is going to die and Jon Snow is going to sit on the throne. Or Aegon Targaryen is going to sit on the throne.
If there is even going to be a throne.
The new throne is going to be... So, when Daenerys is destroying King's Landing, it kind of hit me that she doesn't care about King's Landing. Dragonstone is her throne. That's where she wants to be. I'd imagine, because she's destroying otherwise her home. Winterfell is going to be the new throne, if you will. That's going to be the new place at the end.
I kind of feel... Well, I mean, the show might do it, but I think realistically, if your capital is at the far north of your kingdom, it's not a very good capital as far as But
it's Jon's home. It's where he's going to want to be. The King's Landing's destroyed. They need a new land anyway. Why not?
I could see them having independent kingdoms or something. I still think if Dany dies, this does not end with a central ruler.
It's time to make a democracy.
Honestly.
They switch to communism. That's what happens.
Well, there was straight up in I think it was in season 6, there was a line because in the books the Ironborn basically have democracy. It's a very savage and brutal democracy where they're like, look at all these people I killed, vote for me and stuff like that. It's savage and brutal, but it is a democracy. And there was a line in season 6 where Tyrion was talking to Dany about her heir. And Dany said she couldn't have children. And Tyrion said, well, there's other ways of doing it. He said, the Ironborn, for all their flaws, have their way of doing things. He basically hinted at we could establish a voting system, a democracy. And there's been a lot of people that have like theorized for years that Game of Thrones ends with monarchies are gone. We move on to something
All this
else.
was pointless.
No, monarchies are gone in the sense of like kings are a bad thing.
No.
We're going on to like a better system of government.
That would be hysterical. I would actually really think this is just suddenly in the last episode they introduced democracy into Game of Thrones.
It's actually all been like a really pro-America show. Like everyone like busts out with American flags. Trump walks out. Like, what have I been watching?
No, they act under some castle. They find ancient carvings of a
Oh, a
prophecy.
ballot box.
No. It's still gonna be a monarchy, but they're like it foretells who is the next king, and they see the throne, and it's a wheelchair. Bran is king.
It's too much power for a king to hold.
And then they look deeper, and they find an electric wheelchair.
So, sir, are you King Stark or King Raven?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he just say the Raven. He doesn't think he's Bran Stark anymore.
Yep. I mean, he's a three-eyed raven, so he's King Raven. it works. Well, do we have more things to talk about? Like, I'm sure there is some like big scenes that we're missing, or just any thoughts. Now that we've had about 47 minutes to think about.
Euron and Jaime Lannister fighting. So glad Euron was not the one to kill Jaime Lannister. When he said it, I'm like, you better not be right, Euron. You better not be right.
Yeah. Like at the point, I knew Jaime was gonna die, but yeah, technically, Euron's not the one who killed him.
Yeah, I will say it's like Euron was dumb enough to like he knows that there's a sword right there. It's like he knows that Jaime could come back with a sword. It's like it almost would have been better if he didn't see the weapon. He just went over there to kill him and didn't know the sword was there.
Yeah.
But like he saw the sword and he
It was kind of like, oh, he's still going.
And I like for a second I did think is Jaime gonna die before he ever even gets to Cersei, and Cersei will never even know that he was coming. It was like the thought went away from my brain pretty quickly. So I'm like, that's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But, no. The fight was brutal and stuff. Euron kind of died about as kind of uninteresting of a character as he lived, but
Yara is the one true Greyjoy.
oh yeah, and Yara's fleet never came in to save. It didn't need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the Dornish army never came into play because it didn't need to.
They're too far away. They need the teleporting stones like everyone else.
I mean, they would be very far away. They would have to wait like a month probably, but that hasn't stopped the show before. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Holden, do you have any last thoughts? We're probably going to
really,
go over
no.
this episode some more next week, I'm sure, when Chad's back. And I'm sure next week we're going to be kind of be talking about Game of Thrones as a whole because it'll be the end.
Yeah. I think.
But guys, Qyburn died.
Oh, that was sick. He just like shoved them in his brain. His head just completely split open. I'm like, okay, well, bye, Qyburn.
Yeah.
Peace.
As soon as he started taking steps forward, I'm like, why are you doing that? He doesn't care anymore. He's going to kill you.
Yeah. I think that was a fitting end for Qyburn. I'm pretty cool with that.
Yeah.
Jeff, what were all the deaths? Like,
We pretty much went through
just read it
Varys,
off.
Harry Strickland, Euron Greyjoy, Sandor Clegane, Gregor Clegane, Jaime Lannister, Cersei Lannister, and Qyburn.
That's a lot of people.
Yep. There's a lot of people, yeah. I mean, obviously, Jaime, Cersei, Hound, Mountain, in a weird way, all
Varys.
very,
Yeah,
very
no,
big
we got
characters.
some
And
big
Varys,
deaths.
very
We
big
got-
characters,
We got some characters from episode 1.
yeah.
A good, like, over half of them are.
Yeah. And now it's like, yeah, I will say I'm so glad that we don't have to worry about how Chad said earlier in the spoiler cast. He was like, I think we might be heading for the Disney fairy tale happy ending.
No.
No,
pretty much
we're
got a
definitely
fuller
not.
episode,
No.
though.
Well, like, at the closest thing we can probably realistically get to that, based on what we've seen, is Jon or Dany dies, Jon becomes king, but he kind of feels like shit. He just kind of accepts it, like, I guess I will be king. Like, he kind of did everything else, but he kind of killed He lost someone else he loved and all that. Potentially lose another person other than Danny that he loved, because who knows? Arya or Sansa could die next episode. Who the hell knows?
No one. I mean, yeah, the fact that Danny is still alive right now means that anyone could die.
Yeah.
Also, what happens to which is the last dragon right now? Is it
Drogon.
Drogon. What happens to Drogon if Daenerys dies? Will Drogon just succumb to Jon? How's that going to work?
And then if Jon's smart, he just kills the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, at this point, like, it does not.
I mean, I guess unless like Jon is directly involved in Daenerys' death and Drogon sees it, I guess.
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, Drogon already all the dragons accepted Jon because he's a Targaryen. So I imagine that, yeah, he just kind of accept Jon.
Yeah.
And be sad a little bit.
Because wasn't that the dragon that kind of stared down Jon in episode 1, was it, or 2? Episode 1.
Yeah. I think it was episode 1. But yeah, it was him.
Yeah.
He's the black and red one.
Mm-hmm.
So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kind of feel like that's likely. Because, like, honestly, at this point, like, yeah, how are they going to kill the dragon? Like, the one thing the show is, like, established that can kill dragons is gone.
Oh, it's easy. What's going to happen is the dragon's going to be flying in the air, and then all of a sudden, Arya's going to jump behind him and then stab him.
From the clouds.
From the clouds. That's what's going to happen.
No, it's going to finally be that picture that someone drew with the ravens carrying her.
Yeah.
Stabs the eye. I got you with the pointy end.
And then cut the black. Like that really goofy music plays. Smash Mouth plays. Yeah, I just want to like end off with, this is like, the more and more I think about this and the more like I'm resigning myself to this is going to happen in the books. It is just like, I have read so many Dany chapters and I have spent so much time with her as a character in the books, especially, and in the show. And I really loved her as a character and I thought her journey was awesome. Like some of her, like her journey, like freeing, like abolishing slavery and stuff, like that was like some of my favorite chapters in the entire books and everything, and it is like, it bums me out to know that this is probably her ending. Yeah. It's like, it makes sense, but God, this is almost more tragic to me than the Red Wedding. Almost. Red Wedding is still more tragic, but knowing that this is where Dany ends with how much good she had done before kind of is probably top 2 most depressing things that happen on this show. Yeah.
So you've read all the books.
Yeah.
Okay. I've only read the first book. I really want to read the rest of them. There was a video I just saw today of the actor who plays Sir Barristan saying that George R.R. Martin has basically finished both books already, and that he has a deal with the creators of Game of Thrones to not release them until the show is over.
Don't tease me, Holden. Okay?
I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen the video for myself. I can send it to you.
Like, what, he just blurted this out?
Yeah, no. So it's here's the thing too, is that it's during he's on stage and there's a translator translating for him because he's clearly in a different country, and he's speaking slowly. He is thinking about what he is saying. He's taking pauses. Like, it's not like he blurted it out.
That would be kind of wild. I mean, yeah, because also, like, I mean, the showrunners, I think they've been pretty clear about the fact that they thought that he was going to have these books done before they got to that point in the show.
Is it weird that would potentially make me more upset with the showrunners?
No, it would make me a lot more upset.
I mean, I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen a video of like one of the actors like saying that, because I don't know, like I feel like that'd be a weird thing just to say if you didn't know it as a fact.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, how would he benefit from saying something like that?
I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things he just heard, or you watched the video, so you're more, you know more what exactly he said. But it could be one of those things he just heard rumors about it, heard it from someone who heard from someone type thing.
Possibly,
like he gave a telephone.
In the video, he never claimed his source, but yeah, possibly. I don't know. Just always interesting, and I'm kind of crossing my fingers.
It would be crazy.
It would be crazy, and I still know it's far fetched. It's definitely not like fact, but it's just it's interesting that he said it of all people.
It'd be crazy. Maybe not both books, but he announced that Winds of Winter for like release date the day after the finale.
Yeah, pre-order start
Because at
Monday.
this point, it's kind of like,
I mean, from my perspective, I really, 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 really hope you're right because I
Yeah.
want these books like, so badly.
yeah. I mean, I plan on reading them at some point, but it's like I'm gonna wait till they're at least the last book has a date.
I don't blame you. I mean, Holden, you should definitely read it too. 'Cause I think both
Yeah.
of you all would
I-
really like these books. So if you like the source material, if you like Game of Thrones, like
Yeah.
the overarching story, this is just Game of Thrones, but so much more. You know,
The first book seems to be the
But-
closest to the show, and I've read the whole book, so I've gotten through that one. Book 2, I think, is where it starts to deviate. Am I?
certain parts, like especially Danny's arc in the show in book 2 and show in the season 2 starts to deviate more, but for the most part, I'd say it's decently faithful through season 4. I mean, seasons 1, 2, and 3 are pretty faithful. 4 is fairly faithful, and then 5 and the rest is obviously
yeah.
5 is super not faithful, and then 6, 7, 8 is past the books. So
Yeah.
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 I mean, like honestly, through Oberyn and the mountain fight and stuff like that in the show, like through that point, the show is what you've seen. The show is pretty faithful, overarching. I mean, obviously, there's so much more context than the books, but
Man, it's so crazy that like about half of this TV show, the book parts haven't kind of come out.
yeah, because that was season 5 was the start of that,
Yeah.
and now we're in season 8.
I know the pacing's weird, so it's not going to be an exact, one-to-one thing, obviously. But
When especially with the books, once you get to book 4 and 5, they like expand out so much more than you think they would, and probably more than they should have, because obviously George has had a problem wrapping it all up. But it is,
Or maybe he's already
also
finished
really
them. He
cool.
said no problem at all.
What if he just drops both? He's like, wins a winner,
Shadow
drinks,
Drop,
drink,
I
boom.
know you bitches are going to buy this.
I would be like, holy shit, I have like 1,000 pages to read.
per
And
per
they'll
book.
Yeah. Per book, per book. I'm such a slow reader too. It would take me forever. It's like, do you have the audiobook as well, please?
You'll have to avoid the true spoilers.
yeah. All right. Well, we will be back next week for the last time. I mean, it's gonna be kind of sad. I've enjoyed doing this with you guys.
Yeah.
We're really, really glad you joined on with us. But
Well, we can continue doing it. It's been a blast.
every week we just like come back. Yeah, there's no new Game of Thrones, but we're just gonna talk.
We'll do it for the books. We'll read a chapter and then we'll come back, and we can just have that go on for a very long time.
I'm pretty sure every book has like 70 something chapters. So there you go.
So we're good for 10 years.
You're like, yeah, Bran is freaking being weird again. I don't know.
So, yeah, this one is just Arya this time, so
yeah,
not that much to talk about.
that's that.
I think the camera's being weird for us, Darby.
It disconnected for a
sometimes,
second, but it's
and
back.
It never really. It usually ends up at the final thing. So
Okay.
we'll see. Holden, where can people find you and Chad?
At Respawn Aim Fire, and then I'm at Holden DePardo, and Chad is at Chad Innes Mike. Like I said earlier, at Respawn Aim Fire and at Innes Mike are much more interesting than me. At Chad Innes Mike, I just glossed over that. They're far more interesting than I am on Twitter. So follow them. Follow me if you want to, but if you want to have a good time on Twitter, you should follow them. I'm boring.
Nah, give Holden that follow. What's it gonna hurt? Give the Holden that follow. You're probably more interesting on Twitter than either me or Jeff.
I don't
Yeah, I don't
post
post
ever,
much.
so
I rarely post, and it's like 98% just promoting Nerds at Large content. So if you follow Nerds at Large, you basically followed me. Aside from now until when it comes out, probably 90% of my Twitter activity is going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake related. Because
Whenever that
pretty much
happens.
all I'm thinking about at this point. I don't
This
know,
year, damn
you
it.
saw the trailer, right, Holden?
I did see the trailer, and they said more in June. It could be episodic, so maybe very soon. We get one part
No,
now.
no,
and
exactly.
then,
No,
yeah.
that's the only reason why it might be very soon. Is
Yeah.
because of the episodic thing.
Mhm.
But more thoughts on that. Listen to the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast every Monday. But we are going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Holden. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.